different story. Frontline brings you fresh story from modern China and explores the society behind them. Frontline, bringing you the real China. Hello and welcome to another edition of Frontline, the features segment brought to you by China Radio International. I'm your host, Wu Jia. Today's story starts with a funeral that took place 3 years ago in Wuhu City in East China's Anhui province. Mourners came to pay respect to a local teacher named Liu Jianjiang. Relatives and friends were overcome with grief. But just as the memorial ceremony was coming to an end, Liu's relatives made a surprising move. Let's follow our reporter Yang Lei to learn more.
Shui Xinliang, executive director of the Board of Trustees, the others to different sections on the road.
Shui Xinliang is one of the leaders in the school where Liu Jianjiang worked. That day, she was pinned down in the funeral home and couldn't get away. By social convention, if a superior came to the memorial ceremony to show his respect for his colleague, the relatives should be grateful. Then why was Shui Xinliang treated like this? Was Shui connected to Liu's death in any way?
Shui Xinliang believes that the reason why he was treated so was that he didn't agree to a request made by the relatives of the deceased. What kind of request would be so important to the relatives that they would take such extreme measures? This can be traced to the cause of Liu's death. The telephone rang at 10 p.m. in the evening on August 14th, 2005, when Liu Jianjiang's wife, Luo Yaxiong, was watching TV.
Xian Song called me and told me to hurry up. He said our teacher fell into the river and didn't come up.
Qian Xuesong was a senior student in Taiwan Middle School where Liu taught. Luo Yaxiong took a taxi and headed to the location where her husband fell into the river. On her way, she kept on wondering why this would happen.
He called me on the evening of August the 13th, saying he would visit the parents of his students the next day by a school vehicle. As August the 14th was Sunday and he was normally expected to tutor several students, he asked me to tell them not to come the next day.
Luo felt it strange that her husband fell into the river on his way to his students' homes. But at that moment, she didn't have time to think more about the reason. What she wanted the most was to find her husband immediately.
It was very dark. I saw some people standing on the bank. Someone shouted loudly, "Here comes the teacher's wife."
It was already late at night. Not a single soul could be found in the river, but some people were still trying to help find Liu.
Liu was a good swimmer. When he was a student, he often swam back home after school. Given this, Luo guessed that her husband might have swum to the opposite bank and from there has gone back home. She rushed back home to check. Unfortunately, what she had hoped was not true. Her husband was not back at home. Luo returned to the riverbank the next morning, and people told her the shocking news.
It was not until then did Luo know that another student fell into the river with her husband.
On August the 15th, Hu Silong's body was pulled out of the river. In fact, he kept her position as if he was clasping something in his arms.
When people found Hu Silong, the student who went missing together with Liu, he had already drowned. 4 days after Liu fell into the river, Liu's relatives received a heartbreaking call.
The Xihua police station called my brother. They told him that they found a man who fell into the river on the evening of the 14th, and he was swollen all over. The day before this tragedy, Liu told his wife that he was going to visit the parents of his students. but the next day he drowned in the river. Besides feeling sorry and grieved, people can't help wondering why the teacher and his student had fell into the river.